I'm Daniel, and welcome to Legacy Media and Computers. This is our Saturday night retro show. And tonight, what we're going to do is we are going to upgrade the RAM and the storage on a ThinkPad P72 laptop. Pretty big laptop that's also serves as a portable workstation. And I'm not sure exactly how long it's going to take us, so of course, I've got a cup of Earl Grey. Sit down with whatever it is that soothes you, feeds you, that will help you enjoy the stream. Or if you're not watching live, the video. So the first thing I want to do, and I did order a part from Lenovo, is need to see if we can take the keyboard out. And I do have the service manual loaded in the browser. What do we need to do first? So the first thing we need to do is take off the bottom cover here. That's funny, it's not gonna let me do it. That's okay. Well, let's get to work, shall we? Now, because of the, not necessarily difficulty, but there's two DIMM slots underneath the keyboard. It's always best practice on the ThinkPad to do those modules first. So, okay. So the P72 has 4 DIMM slots, 2 under the back cover, 2 under the keyboard. It also has 2 M2 SSD slots. And it also has space for a single 2.5 inch drive. Now this is a 256 gig SSD that I'm assuming from the Lenovo part number that it might have came with this particular laptop. But the laptop is missing the SATA adapter cable, and there's a cartridge adapter, because the vocabulary is eluding me, but is what holds the drive in place when it's setting in here, and then the SATA adapter cable connects the SATA connector on the drive to the very small connector cable on the laptop. Alright, so I apologize for the alarm, but best practice for Earl Grey is to steep it for 5 minutes. But I'll leave it in there. Alright, so what do we need to do first? We want to install the modules underneath the keyboard, so of course step 1 was to remove the bottom cover, which we did. And then need to loosen the screws that secure the keyboard. And that's what I'm looking for. Of course, let me change this around to be the proper orientation. Now there's a special tool that you're supposed to get from Lenovo. I did order one. Make sure to save that screw. We'll put that aside. So apparently, what the tool does is pops up these two ThinkPad buttons, and I'm hoping I don't break them. Oh, there we go. Hopefully you did not permanently break those. Alright, put those off to the side. What we want is these two screws right here. Until that tool comes in. Hopefully won't have to be doing this very often. Is there? Just want to scroll back. Really want to make sure. Nope. Loosen the screws to. So I did that. Pivot the tool in the direction is shown to release the keyboard. Okay, I think I see what I need to do here. Is the tool ends up pushing the keyboard back toward the back of the laptop, and then you're able to there we go. Alright. And you pull it and flip it this way to do it, and I think what we're really after is right under there. This should have the RAM inside. Yes, it is. And this must be the original RAM module that it came with, and a single 16 gigabyte stick of Micron memory. And what we're going to replace it with is in here, we're going to replace it with 3 32 gig sticks. Of course, I'm probably going to have to get up and get the scissors to open that. We'll leave them on the table. And then we'll just turn the computer on to make sure that it recognizes the memory. Probably should repaste this, but I think the disassembly of this laptop for doing the thermals would be particularly difficult, and I would prefer not to deal with that level of difficulty right now. Okay. All right. So that's 64 gigabytes of RAM on one side. We're going to power up the laptop, go into the system setup. It does take a while to turn on. But just in case it's going to be wanting power. There we go. Well, it is starting Windows. I think I pulled out the connectors for the keyboard. No, I didn't. So. Computer starts up okay. I guess that's a good sign. We have Windows 10 Pro on here. I'm just gonna tweak. Okay, we'll leave it there. All right. No, do not want to start Windows. I want to go into the system setup. Okay, F1. F1, unlike F2 on some other computers, I forgot is the right. So it must have, yes. So it's got 64 on one side and 32 right now on the other side for a total of 96 gigs of RAM. And it'll have more than that. So I'm glad that it's detecting it. Okay. Turn that off and we'll secure the cover. See if I'm putting the cover back on correctly. Alright. I've already recreated on the laptop that I use to kind of keep an eye on the stream. USB thumb drive with the stock recovery image, which to my kind of dismay, Lenovo does not update with the newest bits from Microsoft. You know, like for example, Dell does. Dell's automated recovery will download the latest bits for Windows from the Microsoft server. So machines that were certified for Windows 10, Windows 10 and 11, or just Windows 11 will, excuse me, get the latest bits from Microsoft every time. Awesome. I have to run diagnostics on that. Alright. Let's put the other memory in. Yeah, I like to save the plastic holders for the RAM modules, but the cardboard can be discarded, preferably recycled. Alright, last 32 gig module. Just need to go back to the hardware maintenance manual. And Studio Cat is coming down the hall here. I think you've never had this before. Got it with the stock 16. Upgraded it on this side to be 48. What do you see, Studio Cat? Want to come and upgrade a laptop? Okay. Put that in there, and we'll use this crucial. Hopefully the computer won't squawk about that. But since we've done the hard part of securing or putting the RAM in the sockets underneath the keyboard, we can go ahead and re-secure the keyboard, because it's probably unlikely that we don't need to get back in there anytime soon. So let's flip over the laptop, boot it up. Now this should put us over the 100 gig mark. But it's probably going to take a little while for this to boot up with the new modules installed. So 96 plus 16 is what, 112 gigs? And we'll get one last PNOI performance module at some point in the future, but happened to stumble across an eBay seller who had 3 of them, who seemed to want to get rid of them at a very inexpensive price. And that was all right for me. Okay, we'll go back into the system setup. And 114,688 megabytes, or roughly 112 gigabytes. Great, that's absolutely phenomenal. So we'll turn the computer off, and now we can move on to storage. Now, because this computer has 2 M2 sockets, the system also will allow you the ability to RAID them together. So in this case, will install one in slot 1. I don't know, Studio Cat, what do you think? Might be looking for a bug. There's a ladybug flying around here. Might be looking for that. So this is a Western Digital 2 terabyte high speed . Get in there. And we'll secure it. Try not to lose the securing screw. Apparently this toolkit I have is not magnetic, or the screws aren't magnetic. Okay, and then we're going to replace this one, which is Union Memory. I have never heard of that name before. This is a 512 gigabyte stick SSD. Put that to the side, and we'll open up the next one. I'm just kind of curious. I mean, before having the SSD, having the 48 gigs of RAM, running Lenovo's own recovery on them seemed to take a long time. Hopefully it will not take us that long, because we do kind of have a soft stop. I'm just noticing that Lenovo, there's a heat kind of heat conductor there. Oops. Don't lose the screw. Got enough loose screws as it is. And you can empathize with that, especially as an IT professional. Ha. Maybe an M4 MacBook Air. Alright. Actually, I'm kind of curious. I'm going to go back, try not to pull off this isolating paper. So this side is missing the thermal conductor. So, might have to look and see what, if there's a part number for that, and not having to take the keyboard off of this thing to apply it will be a big plus. But just bear with me a moment. We're going to give the studio cat some snacks. Before we get back to it. So hopefully not having the thermal conductor right there won't be too big of a problem. Okay. Alright, try it again. What did Tim get you? At the very least, I hope maybe some Irish beer. Well, I'm hoping all the handling of this SSD and not killing it. No, actually, no, let me try something. Let's magnetize. There we go. Alright. Maybe he can get you some Amazon gift cards at 50% off. Okay. Alright, so let's put the bottom cover. Well, I'll put this back in here even though it's just kind of rattling around in there. Button this up. Okay. So there's no operating system on here now, but we are going to plug it in. Power it on. Okay. And if you do happen to hear the crunching in the background, that is Studio Cat, at least one of the Studio Cats. Okay. Back to the hardware maintenance manual, configuring RAID. Okay. So we're not going to mirror, we are going to stripe. Supported stripe sizes 4K, 8K, 16, 32, 64, 128. Just going to consult the Oracle for a moment before setting the... What is the optimal stripe size for a striped RAID array? 4K, 8K, 16K, 32K, 64K, or 128K? Well, according to this, saying 32 or 64K, well, we'll say 32K. All right. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to get back into ThinkPad setup. Config. I'll tilt the laptop a little bit to give you a better angle of the screen. Storage and controller mode, we need to change it to RST mode. Yes. F10 to save changes and restart. And then back in we go, back into the setup. And then back to config, storage, create a RAID volume. I'm going to say ThinkPad. And it's already striped. We're going to select both disks. And the system by itself recommends 64K. And we're going to have an almost 4 terabyte volume here. Let's create the volume. There we go. We're going to save and I'm going to save and exit now. Just want to try something really quick. Now, most new computers do not have just save changes. We're going to change the. We're going to temporarily turn secure boot off because we're not going to reload the operating system right now. Then we're going to come into startup and we're selectable for kernel DMA protection. Okay, we have to turn that off as well. What else? Yep, temporarily turn that off. Now let's go back to startup. Can we turn? UV legacy boot. Well, let's save and quit and then come back in here and see if we can kick it over to compatibility mode. Because it just, wouldn't it be cool if we could boot SpinRite on here and test out these SSDs before we reload the OS? And how unfortunate. We'd have to consult the Oracle on this. Okay. Make sure secure boot. Whoops. Let me. Well, I thought that would have been really cool, but apparently can't do that. So we're going to turn secure boot back on. I think we can come near the virtualization process and we'll turn the virtualization or the DMA protection back on, and we'll save and quit and restart. Well, I thought it would have been really cool in order to do that with SpinRite 6.1. I am recording on an iPhone SE Model 2. wanted to see what, if any, built-in OS recovery tools were available, and it does not seem like there is any, although we're gonna go through and no, looks like we can't do that now. We're not going to do a diagnosis. So we've got our thumb drive here. We're going to plug it in and run the recovery. If you ever used to work on ThinkPads before, this environment should look familiar. In fact, I mean, it still looks like it's got the Vista Windows 7 UI from the ThinkVantage Technologies, and of course we agree to the terms and conditions. Of course it will. All the data will be lost. Just back my chair up a little bit. More than perfect for Vista, except you wouldn't be able to use Home Edition. You'd have to find the 64 gig version of Ultimate or Enterprise, and then maybe either put the laptop in legacy mode or find some legacy drivers. Now, ThinkPads, depending on the model, are very good laptops. E series, SL series, maybe not so much. Would certainly advocate for getting a T series or, of course, one of these P series laptops, and of course, you can check out the different models, different specifications. Wikipedia has great pages that break them down, that show you processor types, maximum memory supports, I/O supports. You know, what do they have for USB, LAN? I was going to say FireWire, but I think you get the idea. And they can be particularly affordable if you're looking on eBay. But if you want one that has been professionally refurbished, I highly recommend checking out Salem Techsperts. They have a channel on YouTube, SALEM TECHSPERTS. And you've probably seen some of his videos where he says he's the greatest technician that's ever lived. And considering the monumental undertaking that he is going to be doing soon to put reliable and, more importantly, repairable laptops into the hands of people. He's going to be refurbishing quite a few ThinkPad X1 carbons. So make sure that to check out his work if you're not subscribed to his YouTube channel, or you can check out his website, SalemTexperts.com. I'm pretty sure it's that. Yes, SalemTexperts.com. Doesn't have any inventory in stock right now, but I suspect that's going to change relatively soon. Now, I did recreate the recovery thumb drive earlier this evening, and I don't think the bits are different from the first time I attempted a recovery on this. So it's probably going to be Windows 10, 19, H1 or 2. So the first couple of hours this evening after we get the recovery done are going to be updates, all sorts of updates, and of course I'm not going to stream that kind of drudgery. For the live studio audience, do you have anything in your magic mug or magic glass? Excuse me. Well, we probably could do something like that after this part is done, depending on whenever we get there. If we finish, I was going to say, soft stop at 9 o'clock, depending on where we are. I'll set up another stream and get camera phone and get that going. But I guess it really will be kind of special Patreon video because it's going to be bouncing around trying to do some other things. And PlayStation 5 GTA 5 team will be on. There's a couple of heists in GTA 5 I want to partake in that haven't been able to do. Not sure if we'll be able to do that tonight or not, but the initial launch schedule for that is shortly after 9 o'clock Eastern time. Admittedly, working on doing this sort of computer work is like watching grass grow, paint dry, whichever analogy you want to use. Not very exciting, but can discuss other things while we're waiting. I don't remember exactly how long this product recovery takes, but I will say one thing. It's a lot faster coming from some form of solid state than it was on, I would say, one of my favorite ThinkPads on the Lenovo side of the timeline is the T61. And I had the one with the the 4x3 screen, five five DVDs. Maybe actually, am I correct? I stand corrected. 3 DVDs. And if you were restoring onto Spitting Rust, which on that series laptop you always were, took for almost forever. I mean, you were spending quite a couple, 3, 4 hours, and then you had to do the updates. Maybe it wouldn't have made any difference if what Lenovo ended up doing with the PC division would have IBM done the same thing. Who knows? Conjecture can be fun to talk about. Who knows? But I do, having lived through that time and came of age in that time and worked in that time, the green, blue, red IBM letters on the splash screen, and right here that would appear above. Actually, my memory is starting to fail, like either above or below ThinkPad. And I guess you could say, it's just a name, I would like to think that in some cases they carried the torch rather well, and in some cases more on the consumer side, because Lenovo had their own computing line before they decided to, hey, let's buy IBM's PC division, and it finished, so let's restart. I'm going to go through and, I know how to fix that. I need to go back into the BIOS and change the boot mode from diagnostics back to quick, and say that. Essentially, just change the logo screen. So that will come back up now. Oh yeah. Here's the thing. So once it finishes the recovery, right, you're gonna have to do all those customizations. if you do work in some place where you have access to legitimately Microsoft volume licensing, I highly recommend, especially if you're not going to be installing a lot of applications from the Microsoft Store that you don't want to deal with trying to sideload. I'm a big fan of what's called the long-term servicing branch, now known as the long-term servicing channel. And it's the version of Windows 10 with none of the third-party or extra Microsoft stuff installed. Essentially, it really is base OS and the browser. And depending on which version you installed, it would be, Legacy Edge or Chromium-based Edge. Told you it was kind of boring. So this also has both version of Intel Intel integrated graphics plus NVIDIA Quadro with 4 GB of VRAM, which doesn't seem like a lot of VRAM, but for any recreational titles, I suppose would be okay. And Crash Gaming asks, well, what are the plans with it? It's going to be what I call the Anchor Daily Driver. It's what's probably going to be anchored on the desk in the office once we get through the Macintosh project, which seems like it's ongoing, but I think what's really kind of limiting that part of it is I want to get all the way through You Don't Know Jack the Ride, having gone through all the categories and all the questions and all that jazz before dismantle the Macintosh for storage. And then, this will go there. And then, depending on circumstances and availability and whatnot, if I can snag one of those X1 carbons that Salem Texperts is refurbishing, that will be my what I consider portable daily driver. Like, this might come out only once in a while, where the smaller, excuse me, form factor and screen size, 13-inch, 14-inch versus a whopping 17-inch, much easier to hold on the couch or a recliner that you're in. Well, that was the thing, is because we beta tested it and was always, uninstalling and reloading, I never got through all of the categories and questions. I might have got 5 episodes in before, uninstall, reinstall the new beta that came from Berkeley Systems at the time, and never finished it. Never got all the way to the end. So I'm not sure how that ended up working. Anecdotally, well, maybe it doesn't end, but at some point in time you're going to get back to the first episode, and I suppose when you get to that point, you can say, okay, you've gone through the complete ride. But to my surprise, I think I must be 20, 30, or 40 episodes in, and seems to be no end in sight so far. So, which is okay by me, but it kind of makes you wonder how much audio and graphics. I do remember what episode I started as, because if you in the ride, it gives you the two it essentially asks you a question with the answer, with 2 options, and you pick one of the options, yes or no, whatever the option is. And the first episode had to do with censorship, and it says a raunchy scene shows up on your television. What do? Cover your eyes and ears or play it back in slow motion? And if you get back to that episode, Sorry, I forgot that 4 streams I will capture with old no service iPhone, because you can, for me, I think that's easier. You don't have to use special software, even though there is software you can use, and I just use, the daily driver portable laptop to monitor the stream. Well, the the delay is a little bit troublesome sometimes because there's about 5 to 10 seconds between live action speaking and what I see up on the studio display. You know. Now there was so this of course I said is the P72. The P71, I believe, you could actually have a ThinkPad Ultra Bay in it, where you could, now I can actually use optical drives in this thing. But the chipset in there only supported 64 gigs of RAM. And I think at this point, excuse me, like that would have been enough. Where this is more like, there was a server that I have at my day job that has 192 gigs of RAM in it, like a personal server of mine that I brought with me to the job. And I'm like, I never outgrew the memory. I outgrew the performance of the processors in the server and the spinning rust hard drives in the server. I mean, for the age of the server, I mean, it's 17 years old. 16 years old. I mean, it's a 2008 model of Dell PowerEdge. It has dual 6-core Xeon processors in it, 192 gigs of RAM, as I mentioned, and 8 terabyte RAID array spinning rust. But it's just very slow. And use it for beta testing Server 2025. And it's just, it's very slow. Very, very slow. So, like, looking here, it's got the Legacy Edge and whatnot. I do use, when I say I need to consult the Oracle, Chat GPT, to get what's called the declutter script, which removes all the extra stuff. Not as good as LTSB, but removes all the extra stuff from Windows. And no, I don't have the original CD for Jack. I bought a few years ago a replacement copy for not a lot of money, and of course misplaced it. But I do have an ISO of it mounted, for the Macintosh. I could go, but you need special tools to look at the resource forks. I mean, it's not like, is there a folder on the CD that has graphics images on it? Unfortunately, there's not. There isn't. Well, the good thing is you don't need it. Like, if you can find it for PC, at that point in time, one of the things I did like about some software vendors like Berkeley was, and Blizzard Entertainment for that matter, it was hybrid media. You had both PC and Mac Classic Mac or Mac OS X bits on the same disk. I'm just going to refresh the hot water. Through the coffee maker. If you like this kind of content, of course, please like and subscribe. And if you're interested in becoming a patron, do that. And I can tell you what I do with the stuff that comes in, financial resources, money that comes in on Patreon is used for essentially one thing: to get hardware and software, predominantly vintage IBM or Apple, or RCA Selectavision video discs, and then whichever of those three categories it is gets donated to whichever corresponding library that holds it. Either the John Stevens Library for RCA Selectavision video discs, or the wow. His name is escaping me right now, but went to the gentleman, the gentleman attorney who is ultimately responsible for computer reset in the greater DFW, Texas area. A couple of years ago, they named the Preservation Library of IBM hardware and software after him. But there's some discussion of both kind of being combined into like a single collection of unique American technology. Helps if I turn the coffee maker back on. The reason I asked if you like this sort of content, like and subscribe, is I also did a video on kind of retro kitchen appliances. I'm kind of into the Black & Decker line of space maker appliances, and apparently did get the under the cabinet coffee maker. They also had a toaster oven, can opener, knife sharpener, hand mixer storage, and then I think there might have been a couple of other things. Of course, I don't have enough cupboards to install all of those options under, but I thought it would be pretty cool to at least get the coffee maker and maybe the toaster oven. I was fortunate enough to find the coffee maker, a new old stock in box, but the toaster oven so far is what we call in retro unobtainium priced. I mean, you have to have offensive disposable income. Excuse me. Not always a fan of the constant reboots. I think for the old IBM ThinkPad or PC that ran Windows or OS2, essentially it might have been reboot twice or three times tops. One, it laid down the initial bits, and then the first reboot it did the configuration work, and then the third reboot it might have more configuration work, and then it dropped you into the desktop of which operating system you were using. Well, we've got 7 minutes on this stream left. Give or take. And no 100% guarantee if we're going to do the stream afterwards. If I can, I will, but some other stuff has come up. I'm gonna see like how many more times is this gonna reboot before I can get to the desktop and start the update cycle. It just might be that. So when we do conclude the stream, it will take a little while for YouTube to process it, but it will be available not too far out. It should be available this evening, which is April 12th, 2025. I do like the uh, one of the other YouTube shows that I like to watch is Dave's Garage. Dave Plummer, retired Microsoft engineer, programmer. Actually, during the time where I feel like I cut my teeth on PC technology, the MS DOS, Windows 9X days, and he retired from Microsoft the end of the XP era. So that about does it. Well, anyway, Dave had commented that you can still find remnants of, Windows 9X dialog boxes, Windows XP dialog boxes in Windows 10. And you can notice, like during the setup, the box up here in this corner. It's a little bit, remnants of Windows 95, not 95, Windows 98, 98 second edition, Millennium edition, and on setups. Oh, wow. It still does WinSets. Well, it's not the same thing as the Windows Experience Index that you got in Vista and Windows 7, but it's something kind of similar that'll show you, like, alright, what can you do with your CPU, your graphics, your internal storage. Well, and thank you for joining me for tonight's retro stream. Please like, please subscribe. If you feel generous enough to throw $1 my way a month, the link for the Patreon is in the show notes. Or if you have any documentation or equipment that you would like, hopefully preserve permanently for the posterity, you can also reach out in the comments and we'll make arrangements to touch base with you. So hope to see you next week for another, hopefully more exciting episode of Friday or Saturday Night Retro.